Hello children, today we are going to discuss an interesting topic in this video, that is electromagnetic waves. Now in class 11 you have done quite a bit of waves and you are familiar with what exactly wave is. We know that a wave is basically a form for transportation of energy, right? A wave is a form of energy, right? So a wave is basically what? A wave is a kind of disturbance which is produced by a periodic force in a medium, right? Now you understand that we have all kind of waves. A wave can be a sinusoidal wave, a wave can be a cosine wave, a wave can be stationary, a wave can be progressive, right? Now when you classify waves, then you broadly classify them whether the transmission of waves is going to require a medium or not. So if we classify waves on their tendency to have a medium or not to have a medium for their transportation, then we can classify them into two categories. Waves can be classified into two categories. One is a mechanical wave and the other is electromagnetic wave. Electromagnetic wave. Now this mechanical wave we have discussed extensively in class 11, and mechanical wave is the one which is going to require a medium for its propagation. For example, sound waves. In fact, we cannot live without waves. Waves are all around us. If two friends are trying to talk to each other in a room which is evacuated, where there is no medium, they cannot possibly talk to each other, cannot communicate to each other, because the sound will not travel from one to another. So this is mechanical wave. Mechanical wave is the one which is going to require a medium for propagation. So mechanical wave is the one which is going to require a medium for its what? Propagation. On the other hand, electromagnetic wave is the one which does not require a medium, does not propagation. So electromagnetic wave is the one which does not require a medium for its what? Propagation. Now we know that for producing a wave you require a periodic disturbance in a medium. If the disturbance is mechanical, if a force is what? Mechanical, then it will generate what force? Mechanical wave, and this wave is going to require a medium for its propagation. Now the question arises, what kind of waves are electromagnetic waves? What kind of force or what kind of external agent is required for producing them, right? Now this remained a mystery for many years until in 1865 or 67, James Clerk Maxwell came up with a solution to this problem, and later on he proposed a set of 4 equations. We will be discussing those equations. These equations are basically the ones we have already discussed earlier in electricity and magnetism. He combined all this together and he explained how exactly this electromagnetic wave can be generated, and then many people did pioneering work on this. For example, Hertz was the first one who detected it. Then we had our very own scientist Sir J.C. Bose working in the University of Dhaka. He was able to produce and also transmit these waves, a very pioneering work which is not exactly recognized. Later on Marconi, almost about 50 to 20 years later, Marconi was also able to produce these waves in a lab, and he was able to transmit them, and he was awarded a Nobel Prize also for that. So the history of electromagnetic wave is very interesting. Now we will be discussing what exactly is the means, in what way we can produce it. But before we understand it, we will be reviewing our 4 equations that we have discussed in electricity and magnetism. Now Maxwell believed that these 4 equations were very instrumental for understanding the concept of generation of electromagnetic waves, right? So we will be seeing these 4 equations which we have already discussed, and we will also see the limitations of these 4 equations and what are implications of these equations where they stand in the path of explaining electromagnetic waves, right? The first equation in this line is called Gauss law for electrostatics. Gauss law of electrostatics have already done. That surface integral of electric field is equal to charge enclosed divided by permittivity of free space. Right? Now, these four laws are very instrumental. They explain almost all the laws that are existing today in electrodynamics. Surface integral of electric field is equal to charge enclosed by permittivity of free space. Now, what is the implication of this law? The implication of this law is whenever there is a charge, there has to be an electric field. Right? This is the law. And the implication understood, when there is a charge, there has to be electric field. Right? Now, the second law we have Gauss law for magnetism. Let us understand Gauss law for magnetism. If you take any closed surface, for example, this surface, we know that magnetic field lines form closed loops. Imagine 4 lines are entering a closed surface. So, we know if these 4 lines are entering a closed surface or a Gaussian surface, then all these 4 lines will also be leaving the Gaussian surface because they form what? Closed loops. In case of electric field lines, we see the closed loop is not formed, they travel from positive to negative. However, in case of magnetic field lines, we find that the number of lines entering a surface is equal to number of lines leaving the surface. So, if I ask you what the net number of lines which are enclosed by the surface are retained by the surface, then what will you say? If 4 lines went in, 4 went out. So, how many net lines are there? 0. In other words, we can say that magnetic flux is how much? 0. So, Gauss law for magnetism is that surface integral of magnetic field is equal to how much? 0. Meaning, if you take any closed loop, any closed surface, then the magnetic flux associated with the given surface will be how much? 0. This is the second law. Now, third law. Now, Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction we have done. The law says the line integral of electric field E dot dl is equal to negative of derivative of magnetic flux with respect to time. E dot dl equals to minus derivative of magnetic flux associated with a given surface. Now, this is a very interesting law. I can look at this law in a different way, like this. We know that magnetic flux is equal to B into A. Let us understand what this law actually implies. The third law, we know phi B is equal to how much here? B into A. If area is constant and magnetic field is varying, then I can write line integral of electric field is equal to minus A into dB dt. Now, this is a very interesting result from this. This result says that if there is a variable magnetic field, it will generate electric field by itself. Very important concept. By keeping a variable magnetic field, I can generate what? An electric field. That means electric and magnetic fields are going to coexist together. So, this is the third law. Let us see once again. The first law says whenever there is a charge, there is electric field. The second law says that the net magnetic flux associated with a surface will be 0 because as many lines entering, as many lines are leaving. And the third law says that whenever a magnetic field is in motion, a magnetic field is moving, a variable magnetic field will generate what? An electric field. And the fourth law is Ampere's law, Ampere's circuital law, which you know. Ampere's circuital law. Ampere's circuital law says that line integral of magnetic field is mu naught times the threading current, right. So, these 4 laws basically are the laws which govern all the laws that we have studied in electrodynamics. Now, Maxwell found that the 4th law was quite fallacious, right. Now, there was a debate going on. When you look at the 2nd law, we know whenever charges move, they produce a magnetic field. You have studied magnetic effects of current. We did Biot-Savart's law and so many laws about this. Whenever there is a current flowing through a wire, it generates a magnetic field, right. A charge in motion produces a magnetic field, right. Meaning, whenever a charge will move, it is going to produce a magnetic field. Now, Maxwell is trying to work on the concept, is it possible the other way around also? If a variable electric field is producing a magnetic field, meaning the current is producing a magnetic field, is it possible that a varying magnetic field, a variable magnetic field will produce an electric field also? Yes, this is visible from here. We can very clearly see. Now, using this 3rd law, he went on to the 2nd law and he found, he went on to the 4th law, that is Ampere's circuit law. He found that Ampere's circuit law was not a complete law, because this current I is the current which is flowing through a wire, right, and we call it what current? Conduction current, right. This is being caused by moving charges. This current is being consumed by what? Moving charges. Now, he argued that what will happen if I have 2 plates of a capacitor connected with a battery here? What will happen in this case? If I consider loop out here, suppose I consider loop C1 out here, a current is flowing, right. If I use right hand rule, you can see that magnetic field is what? Circular and clockwise. This is how the field will be produced. Let us see separately here. This is the current. I consider an Amperian loop out here, then this is how the magnetic field will be produced. It is justified also because the current is flowing here. But what will happen between 2 plates of the capacitor? Because there is no current out here. Will there be a magnetic field here as well? In fact, this remained unexplained for a long time until he proposed the concept of displacement current. He said that just like there is a current outside in the circuit, there is also a current between the 2 plates. And for demonstrating it, what he did? He placed a compass here between the 2 plates. You know, a magnetic compass is basically what? A bar magnet, a tiny bar magnet. When he placed a compass here between the 2 plates of the capacitor, he found that this needle was deflected. Very interesting. If this needle is deflected, it is indicating there is a field between the 2 plates. So, from where is the field coming? This field will come only when there is a current also between the 2 plates. That means, even though there is no medium between 2 plates, a current is being set up. And he introduced the concept of displacement current. So, we will be discussing displacement current and then we will be coming to back to this discussion of generating electromagnetic waves. Okay? Displacement current, we denote it by ID. Now, this is a new term for you because till now you have used only this term current, but the current which we have discussed in conventional term is basically the current flowing through a wire, and that current we will call conduction current. Clear? Displacement current, we will discuss this once again. These are plates of the capacitor. This is one plate, and then this is another plate. These are plates of the capacitor connected with the help of a battery, and there is this key. P1 and P2 plates of the capacitor. So, like I said, if you place here a compass, then we see the compass is getting deflected, and the deflection of the compass is clearly indicating that between the 2 plates also current is being set up. The question is from where is this current coming, because the current is flowing only through this wire where there is no medium here, and obviously there cannot be a conventional current. Now why this current is being set up? Now Maxwell had an explanation for this. When we close the key, then the charges start building on this. The plates of the capacitor start what? Charging, and the charges start what? Building. Suppose initially 1 unit of charge was transferred. Now this 1 unit of charge will producing what? An electric field. Now again 1 more was added, so it became 2 and 3. That means the charge is going to what? Increase. As the charge will increase, what will happen? As the charge will increase, children, it will produce a variable what? Electric field. It will produce a variable electric field. And as it will produce a variable electric field, it will also produce what? A variable electric flux between the two plates of the capacitor. And when there will be a variable electric field, there will be variable electric flux, and this variable electric field will generate a magnetic field. Now that magnetic field will also be variable, remember. It will generate a field which is also, magnetic field is also variable. So the current which is being set up between the two plates, because of change of electric field or electric flux between the two plates of the capacitor, is called displacement current. Clear? It is very interesting for you to note that this current will be seen only as the electric field between the two plates is changing, or for that matter as long as the electric flux is between the two plates is changing. Clear? So let us define what is displacement current. Displacement current. Shall we define? Current produced between the plates of a capacitor due to change of electric field or electric flux is called displacement current, and we will be denoting this by IT. So be very clear, current in a circuit due to flow of charges will be conduction current, but current between the two plates of a capacitor due to change of electric flux or due to change of electric field will be displacement current. Clear? Then how much its value? Displacement of electric flux. Now this is the mathematical definition. The displacement current is equal to rate of change of electric flux, meaning children, ID is equal to rate of change of times epsilon naught. Displacement current is equal to rate of change of electric flux times epsilon naught, meaning d phi e dt into epsilon naught. So here we get an important formula for you to remember. Displacement current ID is equal to epsilon naught d phi e dt. And this is the value of displacement current. Clear? So now displacement current is important to explain the continuity of current in the what? Circuit. Now we can try to understand displacement current in another way also. Suppose the current here is I. Let us see more explanation of this. Why this current is being set up logically? We consider an Amperian loop out here, like I said before. This Amperian loop, in fact, this is the cross section that we are saying is C1, right? Current is I. So we are justified to write B dot dl for the coil C1 is equal to mu naught I. Now if I consider another Amperian loop out here, suppose this loop is how much? This loop is C2. Now if I use Ampere's circuital law B dot dl for this loop C2, obviously there is no current there is no conventional current, so how much will be this? This will be equal to 0. However, there are two things, C1 and C2 are very close to each other, then the result should be symmetrical. If this is mu naught I, this will also be mu naught I, but there seems to be no plausible explanation because there is no medium here between the two plates, so I is 0. Now, if C1 and C2 are very close to each other, then we can assume that change of flux through this and this will be what? Same. Hence, we should be justified to write that line integral of magnetic field here will be equal to mu naught into I dash, where I dash is some kind of current which is being set up between the two plates of the capacitor if you consider symmetry of this. And then we find that I dash is same as I, only the format is different, and this I dash we call what? Displacement current between the two plates, and I is which current? Conduction current, which is outside the two plates. Clear? Now, there are certain properties of displacement current, so we will see what exactly the properties of displacement current, but once again I will wind up the whole thing that we discuss, that current which is caused between the two plates of a capacitor due to change in electric field across them or due to change of electric flux between two plates is called displacement current, and numerically it is equal to rate of change of electric flux times epsilon naught or permittivity of free space. Clear? So, once understood it, we will be seeing what are properties of displacement currents. Okay? Properties of displacement current. Children will be saying what are properties of displacement current. Once again, we will go back to the same diagram. These are plates of the capacitor, and this is the battery which you have connected, right? This is conduction current, and the current which is being set up between the two plates P1 and P2. This is what current? This is displacement current. So, what are its properties? The first property is it completes the circuit and maintains continuity. If there is no current between the two plates of the capacitor, then there will be no continuity of current in the circuit. If I connect here a sensitive ammeter, then I will find there will be no deflection in the ammeter. However, as long as the current is changing in the external circuit, we will continue to see a deflection in the ammeter, right. So, this is showing to us that there is a continuity of current across the circuit, and this continuity can be maintained if and only if there is a current between the two plates also, right. So, the first property is displacement current is equal to conduction current. Displacement current is equal to conduction current. ID is equal to IC. They ask you this in the exam also. They can ask you to prove as well. Displacement current is equal to conduction current. How? Let us see proof. There is very small proof for this. We know that conduction current is what? dq dt, right? Conduction current IC is equal to rate of change of charges, rate of flow of charges dq dt. Now, we know that phi, if I use Gauss theorem, electric flux is equal to q by epsilon naught, right? Therefore, displacement current will be equal to epsilon naught times d phi e dt. If I integrate it here, if I differentiate it here, then IT is going to be equal to epsilon naught into derivative of q by epsilon naught dt. Now, 1 by epsilon naught is constant, comes out, we get dq dt. ID is equal to dq dt is equal to how much of IC. So here we got ID is equal to IC. So this is the second property, the displacement current is equal to conduction current in the circuit. Clear? Number 3, displacement current is not caused by flow of charges. So in fact, you have to understand that it only adds up to the what? Current density. But it is producing a magnetic field, like I said, this is why we call it a current. So we will say it is caused by change of electric flux. So these are some of the properties of displacement current we have to know, and please bear in mind that displacement current is basically adding on to the what? Current density. It is not, it's basically something like a virtual current, but it is causing what? The magnetic field, so we are calling it what? Current, right? You don't have to see the charges actually moving from here to here, don't see that way, right? So it's caused by change of electric flux, and it is not caused by flow of conventional charges. Clear? And once you understand this, then you must have felt it by now that if I want to write Ampere's circuit law to explain the whole circuit, meaning if I want to write Ampere's circuit law so that it is justifying the behavior of the entire circuit, then its present form is not enough. Maxwell suggested that Ampere's circuit law needed to be modified, and actually modified to Ampere's circuit law. So we will be seeing modified form of Ampere's circuit law. Clear? Modification of Ampere's law. Let us see modification of Ampere's circuit law. Once again, children, we have plates of the capacitors. These plates are P1 and P2, and here we are connecting a battery and a key, right? Okay. If I write Ampere's circuit law B dot dl mu naught I, it is good for the region outside the two plates, but it is not right for the region between the two plates. So this law we can write in what? Two forms. B dot dl is equal to mu naught I. I will be IC for the external circuit, and I will be ID for the space between the two plates of the capacitor. Therefore, Maxwell suggested that this law can be modified and written as modified law B dot dl is equal to mu naught times IC plus ID. IC plus ID. Beautiful way to express it. Now, I will call this equation 1 the modified equation. If you modify for the circuit separately outside the plates of the capacitor, children, outside the plates of the capacitor, we know the displacement current is how much? 0. If I put it 0, then what do we get? B dot dl will be mu naught into IC. This is outside. However, if I want to calculate the value of this closed integral between the two plates inside the plates, we know between the two plates conduction current is what? 0, because there is no wire, there is no current being conducted from plate 1 to plate 2. So IC becomes how much? 0. Then we get closed integral of BDL inside mu naught ID. This is equation 3. Clear? So this is equation 1 represents modified law, and then this law can be understood here is very well explaining the behavior of the circuit outside the two plates and also between the two plates. There is a continuity, there is current here also and this current here also. Clear? Now from equation 1 I can say that B dot dl is equal to mu naught IC, mu naught ID, but we know children ID is equal to epsilon naught times d phi e dt. So equation 1 can also be written as B dot dl is equal to mu naught IC plus mu naught epsilon naught d phi e dt. So this is another way to modify equation 1. So we saw there was a great need to modify Ampere's circuit law, as it was not explained into it was not able to explain the capacitive circuits where there is no conducting medium between the two plates of the capacitor. Now once you understood it, we shall be again reviewing Maxwell's equations and then we will see how we can generate electromagnetic waves. Okay, let's see this. Maxwell's equations. There are 4 equations. First one is Gauss law of electrostatics or electricity, that is closed integral of E dot ds is equal to charge enclosed by permittivity of free space, right. Then the second law, Gauss law of magnetism, we have surface integral of magnetic field is equal to how much m? 0. Third law is line integral of electric field is equal to minus d phi b dt or d phi m dt, where phi m is what? The magnetic flux. This is Faraday's law, and the fourth one is Ampere's law, which we modified just now, and we came across this new concept of displacement current, that is B dot dl is equal to mu naught times IC plus ID. Using these 4 equations, Maxwell very clearly concluded. You can also do that. Here there is a change in magnetic flux will produce what? Electric field. And then this law says that whenever there is a current associated, a charge in motion is going to generate a magnetic field. So that means both are in fact going to support each other. If one is produced, almost instantly the other will be produced, meaning if there is a changing electric field, it will instantly produce a changing magnetic field. When there is a changing magnetic field, it will produce what? A changing electric field. Very important for you to remember, the concept behind generating electromagnetic wave is a changing electric field. Now this is an important concept. A changing electric field produces changing magnetic field, and a changing magnetic field produces changing electric field, vice versa. Now they both are in the supporting role. Now let's imagine a situation. Let's look at this particular plate, for example, where a charge is driven. A charge is driven on this plate, an electron is driven. Now as you connect this plate to a battery, then what will happen? This battery will continue to supply what? Charges to this plate, and as each charge will come, it will exert a force on this, and the force will accelerate this what? Particle. Now this particle, this electron is being set into motion, right? Suppose this is mean position of electron, and the electron is set into motion to oscillate. Electron goes like this. This is the amplitude. Comes back, half the revolution is completed, goes for the remaining half in opposite direction, and then comes back. So one complete revolution is completed. 1/4, half, 3/4 and complete motion. 1/4 the time period, half is coming to mean position, again maximum displacement in opposite direction, again coming back to the mean position. This is something like you have discussed in case of simple harmonic oscillations of a pendulum. Let us go back to it again and see. This is mean position, this is where the electron is, same thing. We exert a small force and we disturb it from its mean position, then goes it to the what? Maximum displacement on one side, extremity, 1/4, again comes back here, half, then goes to the extreme position on the other side, and then comes back again. Same thing is happening here. So imagine the moment this electron moves up, it sets up a variable electric field. Let's imagine like this in a 3-dimensional space and see what is happening. I regard this as x-axis, y-axis, and I regard this as z-axis. The moment this electron moves up, suppose it is moving along positive y-axis, its displacement is maximum at this point. This is how it moves along sinusoidal wave. The moment it moves up, the moment a variable electric field is produced, instantly almost at the same time a variable magnetic field is produced. Now this field is perpendicular to the electric field, and let us say it is directed along z-axis. This field is produced like this. Now again electron is coming back to its mean position, so displacement is decreasing, it comes here. There is no time lag, almost at the same time, both in the same phase. When this is maximum, this is also maximum. When the electron returns here, electric field becomes 0, then the magnetic field is also 0. Now the electron is going downwards, negative y-axis. Electron is going down like this. Same amplitude here. Suppose the electron is here. This is the curve. Electric field. Now at the same time, the magnetic field also starts along z-axis. This is how it goes. So you can see that this electric field vector, magnetic field vector, electric field vector, magnetic field vector, they are oscillating in what? Harmony, maintaining the same phase, and clearly they both are defining what waves? Sine waves. Clear? Now remember, when the electron went up, it produced an electric field. After producing its electric field, it doesn't have to do anything. It will be like a chain reaction. When electron moves in this part, instantly it produces the electric field. So magnetic field. When electric field is changing, it's instantly producing magnetic field. When the magnetic field change, it will produce non-electric field. They both will keep generating each other, and the energy will continue to get transmitted in the form of photon till eternity, until unless you stop this energy. Suppose at a very far away place located in infinity, a thing happened where a photon was produced by this pulsating electron. A charged particle oscillated, was accelerated, When the particle will be accelerated, its velocity will increase. Velocity will increase, it will produce variable electric field. When variable electric field is produced, variable magnetic field also is produced. And this photon which is generated as a consequence of the oscillation of the charged particle, it will have the same characteristics as the oscillating particle. If the oscillating particle, suppose this electron is in frequency nu, then the frequency of this wave is also be how much? Nu. Same characteristics, it will not change. Amplitude may change, wavelength may change, but frequency will be exactly same. We will have the same characteristics as, that is signature of the particle, which is producing this electric and magnetic fields, right. Once this wave is produced, it will continue to travel through vacuum until unless you stop it, you absorb the photon and kill the wave, right. So, this is how electromagnetic wave is being generated. Very interestingly, electric and magnetic fields are oscillating at right angle and they do not have any components along x axis. We find that the wave is travelling along which axis? X axis. This is the velocity of the wave. Velocity of the wave is along which axis? X axis, and velocity of a wave is denoted by c. So, c is along which axis? X axis. Electric field is along y axis, magnetic field is along z axis. The wave is travelling parallel, perpendicular to the what? The plane containing electric and magnetic fields, and that is along which axis? Z axis, x axis. If E is along y axis, B is along z axis, then the wave is transmitted along which axis? X axis, along this direction. Clear? So, in this discussion we understood that electromagnetic waves are generated by an accelerating particle, by an accelerating charged particle, which produces electric and magnetic fields which are time dependent and directed at right angle to each other. Clear? So, we will be writing how they are produced, and then we will be working on their equations also. Okay? Directed perpendicular to each other, perpendicular to each other. So, in nutshell you can understand, electromagnetic waves are produced by an accelerated charged particle which produces time varying electric and magnetic fields directed at right angle to each other. Clear? And where does the wave travel? The wave travels in a direction which is perpendicular to E and B both. Clear? So, I will write here EM wave travels perpendicular to E and B both. E and B both. Clear? Let us understand it once again. This is how the electric field is directed. Now, our magnetic field is directed here along z axis. So, this is how the magnetic field is directed. Clear? This is E, this is B. Now, they are changing their positions. This is B and this is E. Again, this is E and this is B. It goes on and on. The wave is travelling along which axis? X axis. This is C. Clear? Now, you can see this is the amplitude of electric field, this is amplitude of the magnetic field. Clear? So, electric field and both has what? Moving as sine waves. Important to know that electric and magnetic field are in the same phase, Suppose the wave is at this point P, where its displacement along x axis is x. The displacement is x. And the velocity, angular velocity is omega. So we can configure point P as x comma omega t. Clear? And suppose the amplitude here is E and this amplitude is B. This amplitude is, this displacement is B, this displacement is what? E. Then electric field is given by Ey is equal to E naught y. E naught is the amplitude along y axis sin kx minus omega t, and magnetic field along y axis is b naught y sin kx minus omega t. So Ey and By, B is travelling along z axis. So these are instantaneous values of electric field and magnetic field. At what instant? When the displacement of wave is x, after how much time? T. Now this k, where k is 2 pi by lambda. Now this is an important constant. K is equal to 2 pi by lambda, and k is called propagation constant. You remember this? K is called propagation constant. Actually, I have done the equation of a progressive wave, simple harmonic sinusoidal wave in class 11 is basically the same thing that you have done. Okay, these are the amplitudes. This along y axis, this along z axis. Clear? Now, once you understood this, then we have velocity of electromagnetic wave. Children, you should know this. Velocity c is equal to omega by k. It is important for you to know. C is equal to omega by k. It can be established also. Omega by k, children. If you put the value, omega is 2 pi nu, nu is frequency, k is 2 pi by lambda, this cancel out. So we get nu into lambda is equal to c. Clear? C is equal to omega by k. Important for sums. Number 2, we have c is equal to nu into lambda. From here we get two relations. Frequency is equal to c by lambda and lambda is equal to c by nu. Now, what are the energy factors here? You can see that electromagnetic wave as a whole is composed of two energies. One is energy of the oscillating electric field, and the second one is energy of the oscillating magnetic field. So we have energy density of electric field, energy density of electric field, we will call it UE is equal to half epsilon naught into E square, where E is the instantaneous value of the electric field. Actually, we are doing numericals also on this after we discuss this important terms, and then we have energy density, energy density of magnetic field, energy density of magnetic field, children, Um will be equal to B square by 2 mu naught, and you have to know that both the energy densities are equal. U is equal to U, and therefore, if you have to calculate total energy density, so total energy density will be sum of electric energy density and magnetic field energy density. So, total energy density U will be equal to half epsilon naught into E square plus B square by 2 mu naught. So, this will be total energy density that you have for electromagnetic wave, the total energy density. Okay? Let us say this. Now, we have energy of electromagnetic waves. When I say energy of electromagnetic wave, children, you have to understand the energy of photon which is carrying this energy, right? Energy of electromagnetic wave U is equal to h nu or hc by lambda. You very well know h is what? Planck's constant, nu is frequency, c is speed of light and wavelength. Depending on what is given, you can use this formula, right? And see children, photons have zero rest mass. They are massless particles. They are actually what? Packets of energy, but they do have what? Relativistic mass, and therefore they have what? Momentum, right? So, momentum of photon, momentum of photon or electromagnetic photon will write will be better. We can easily calculate P is equal to h nu by c. And how we get this relation, children? Because energy of electromagnetic wave is equivalent to what? mc square, where m is the equivalent mass of photon. So, if I use that relation here, I can write mc square is equal to h into nu. So, mc is equal to how much? H nu by c. You can also write this as u by c. Clear? Same, h nu is the what? Momentum of photon. Clear?